Well, this might be a longer episode and might be a little bit rambling. Sorry. We're trying to keep up with the news related to Marjorie Taylor Greene and national divorce. Today's episode, we wanted to continue a trend that we've had, which is namely explaining the facts that the mainstream media is not doing. This is a continuation of the video that we did where we said Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweet broke no laws and was not unconstitutional. I sent that video that we made at the Yes California YouTube channel to 200 liberals. Not one disagreed with me. They would say, I still think she's treasonous. I still think she's bad. We should get rid of her. What she did on January 6th was treasonous, and so we think it means treason. And I said, looking at just the tweet that she said about national divorce, can you say that it meets the legal qualifications for sedition, treason, or insurrection? And I showed how it didn't. No one contradicted me. No one dared to even do that. They would just go back to, okay, but she's treasonous. Okay, hey, you can have that feeling. I'm just saying the law doesn't say that. And so we see a lot of people in mainstream news saying what she did is treasonous or legal. No, it's not. That's a total lie, and there's nothing in the law to back that up at all. But you won't see anyone in the media say that. To my knowledge, we're the only ones pointing that out. But it's a fact. And we walked it through. We shared that video with a lot of people. We said, are we getting anything wrong? Pointed out, nobody. Nobody was able to pick apart our legal analysis of the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene said absolutely nothing in her famous national divorce tweet issued on President's Day that met the legal requirements to be prosecuted for any of the crimes that she's being claimed to process. But today we wanted to deal with another big lie. Actually, we want to deal with a couple ones. First, isn't what she's doing what happened during the Civil War? She's talking about national divorce. Isn't that how the Civil War happened? And when she says national divorce, doesn't she really mean Civil War? Come on. She says national divorce. She means violent, bloody Civil War. Actually, this is going to piss people off, but she's following the process that Abraham Lincoln outlined for achieving secession. And actually, what she's doing is the total opposite of what the Southern legislators did when they wanted to secede. Sorry, facts hurt. I'll walk you through everything, show you the sources, and it will be inconclusive and undebatable. And we'll be right back in just a second. Look, if you don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene and you think she's racist and you think her side's racist, fine. If you think that she's closet white supremacist, fine. I don't really disagree with you. I don't like her values. I don't want to share her values. I don't want to limit her vision of society. But people are making statements that aren't factually correct. People are saying, it's not that I disagree with what she said, it's that what she said in her tweet is a crime. Total lie. Doesn't meet the legal qualifications for secession, sedition, insurrection, or rebellion at all. The other lie is, isn't what she's doing exactly what happened during the Civil War? Well, actually, it's not. And you're going to see a lot of historians out there saying, doesn't she remember what happened last time we fought a civil war? I think Mitt Romney said she's an idiot. Doesn't she remember she fought a civil war? CNN had a news reporter going, idiot, doesn't she remember we fought a civil war? Actually, that's totally irrelevant. So let me walk you through it so you can see what's going on. So people are claiming she doesn't have her understanding of history correct. And I've seen history professors say that, and they are all lying. So here's what actually went on. This is from the United States Senate, the official United States Senate, senate.gov, the official history of the United States Senate. And we can go back to the secession. Civil War Senate reacts to secession. November 1860, a deeply divided nation teetered on the brink of civil war. Abraham Lincoln's victory in the presidential election prompted a rapid succession of dramatic events. The secession of southern states and the withdrawal of their elected representatives forced an unprecedented constitutional crisis in Congress. On May 14, 1861, senators debated what to do with the seats left vacant by their Southern colleagues. Here's another one. This is called Pieces of History from the National Archives. National Archives, okay, another big reputable source. Also talking about Congress during the Civil War period. When a torrent of secession finally concluded, vacancies existed in both chambers of Congress. The mass exodus of Southern Democrats shrank the federal legislature to 50 senators and 100 representatives by the beginning of 1863. So they actually had 66 senators and 234 representatives, and that was shrunken down to, let me find that again, 50 senators and 180 representatives. So what you can see there is that Congress, yeah, there it is. 66 senators, 234 representatives, dropped down to 50 senators and 180 representatives. So a lot of people quit Congress. That is the total opposite of what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing. Let's take a look. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is still a sitting Congress member, nor has she encouraged anyone to quit Congress, nor has she said that she wants to quit Congress. So there's nothing that Marjorie Taylor Greene said in any capacity of, I want to quit Congress, people should leave their Senate seats, Republicans should leave their congressional seats, we should not have any discussion at all in the federal government, we should just leave. That's actually what happened in the South. They just left so that Lincoln really didn't have the opportunity to negotiate with them because they wouldn't talk to him or anyone in the federal government at all. They just took off. She's still in office. She isn't left office. She's not encouraging anyone to leave office, and she's not encouraging anyone to say, let's exclusively not have a debate in Congress. In fact, here's the tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Whether anyone likes it or not, the national divorce is a discussion that we must have. She's having this discussion while she's in Congress and saying we need to have a discussion. That means she's trying to have a discussion with Congress, aka Democrats. That is the total opposite of what actually happened during the Civil War when all the Southern secessionists left and wouldn't even talk to the people in the federal government. She's actually saying, I want to have a discussion while sitting in Congress, and in no way she's saying we should not have negotiation and everybody who believes in me should leave Congress and let's fight this out in the streets. Didn't say that. Also, it's been interesting watching many people debate my words, but unwilling to ask me what I mean by national divorce. The reason is that they're saying, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have never said that national divorce means civil war, ever, nor is there any evidence that Marjorie Taylor Greene ever said that she means civil war by national divorce. But if you watch all the liberal news, they say straight up, she means bloody civil war. I can't tell you the number of references from liberal stations that say when she says national divorce, she means bloody civil war. So she's never said anything like that. She's never entertained those ideas, nor is there any evidence of that at all. Nor did she say that in any of the tweets. People are ascribing thoughts to her. They're saying, well, because she backed up January 6th, she must mean violent secession. Although there's no evidence for that at all, and she didn't say anything like that, we can go ahead and assume that's what she means. And when I was talking to Jeremy Zogby, I was saying, look, I've been in the national divorce movement for years. Cal Exit actually started the term national divorce. Write that down. Here's another thing you won't see in the news. We liberals here in California started the term national divorce first. We were using it around the 2017 or 2018 Valentine's Day event. So going back half a decade. We always meant negotiated settlement. Anybody that we talk to who works on national divorce, including the Texas Nationalists and the New Hampshire Independence Movement and the Americans United for Peaceful Separation, the other largest secession movements in America, all mean negotiated settlement. None of them mean shoot your way out. So none of them are saying shoot your way out. And when I say national divorce, I mean civil war. I've been in the movement. I've met more people. Nobody's talking like that. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene herself is saying, people won't even ask me what I mean by national divorce. They just assume I mean bloody civil war. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that anyone who's been talking about national divorce and is a reputable player with a sizable population following them meant civil war? Name one person in the national divorce space who has a sizable reputation, has made some headway, has followers, and said anywhere, I mean violent civil war when I say national divorce. I don't think you'll find it. I've never seen it in years. The other secessionists don't talk about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is specifically saying that's not it. So there's no evidence to back up that she's saying bloody civil war. Now, does she mean that? It's a possibility. She could be lying. She could be making it up as she goes along. I'm just saying you all are assuming something and you don't actually have proof. What she's saying is, I want to talk while still staying as a sitting member of Congress, and she's having dialogue with fellow Congress members. I just showed you how that's not what the South did at all. They just left and said, we're not negotiating or talking with you at all. She's doing the total opposite of that. But it gets even worse. Get ready to get even more pissed off. I'm sorry. But actually, she's doing this exactly the way Lincoln said. Let me show you the evidence. You're going to see this nowhere in mainstream media. So here we go. This is Lincoln's inaugural address. And I want you to ask yourself something. Both Lincoln in his inaugural address and Salmon Chase in the Texas versus White case, the only Supreme Court case to look at secession, never used the word amendment. They say consent. If Lincoln is saying that you can secede with consent in his first inaugural address, and Salmon Chase is saying you can secede with consent in Texas versus White, argued after the Civil War, the only Supreme Court case to look at Civil War directly, why did they not use the word amendment? The amendment had been around for a century before Lincoln and Chase came around. And yet neither one of them says amendment, but says consent. Why would you do that? Unless you weren't sure that it had to be an amendment, but could be just a general form of consent, not necessarily the amendment. Lincoln was a lawyer. Chase was a lawyer. There's the plain spoken rule in law. Also at that time is exceptionally plain spoken. Neither one of them said amendment. Maybe that's because they knew they couldn't say that, because they couldn't limit it to one alley of achieving vote to secede, because there were many ways to do it. Question for you. Neither one of them say amendment, and both of them say consent. So here's Abraham Lincoln in his inaugural address. I hold that in, and I'll just zoom in super far. You're going to see this nowhere. I hold that in contemplation of universal law and the Constitution of the United States of these states is perpetual. Perpetuity is implied, if not expressed, in the fundamental law of all national governments. It is safe to assert that no government proper ever had a provision in its organic law for its own termination. Continue to execute all the express provisions of our national Constitution, and the Union will endure forever. It being impossible to destroy except by some action not provided for in the instrument itself. So Lincoln is saying, maybe you could secede, but the Constitution doesn't really directly lay out a way to do that. Again, if the United States be not a government proper, but an association of states in the nature of a contract merely, can it as a contract be peacefully unmade by less than all the parties who made it? One party to a contract may violate it, break it, so to speak, but does it not require all to lawfully rescind it? So the American Union was a contract. The Southern states signed that contract and joined. Lincoln is not saying that there's no way out. He's saying it's unfair for people who sign a contract to just decide, I don't want to live by the contract and I'm out. When you break a contract, everybody who signs the contract basically has to agree, or at least the majority of them. Descending from these general principles, we find that the proposition that in legal contemplation of the Union is perpetually confirmed by the history of the Union itself. The Union is much older than the Constitution. It was formed, blah, 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 blah. But if destruction of the Union by one or a part of the states be lawfully possible, the Union is less perfect than before the Constitution, having lost the vital element of perpetuity. The Union should not be destroyed because one state or part of the states decides we want out. Contract has to be broken by all the parties. No one state should be able to just leave or we don't have a union. Okay? It follows from these views that no state upon its own mere motion can lawfully get out of the union. That resolves and ordinances to that effect are legally void, and that acts of violence within any state or states against the authority of the United States are insurrectionary or revolutionary according to circumstances. I therefore consider that in view of the Constitution and the laws of the Union is unbroken, and to the extent of my ability, I shall take care, as the Constitution itself expressly enjoins upon me, and the laws of the Union be faithfully executed in all the states. Doing this I deem to be the only a simple duty on my part, and I shall perform it so far as practicable, unless my rightful masters, who are the American people, shall withhold the requisite means or in some authoritative manner direct the contrary. I'm going to keep this union together and nobody's going to stop me unless the people who actually own me, the American people, direct me to do something else than keep the union. Plainly, the central idea of secession is, in essence, anarchy. A majority held in restraint by constitutional checks and limitations and always changing easily with deliberate changes of popular opinions and sentiments is the true sovereign of a people. Deliberate changes with popular opinions and sentiments is a sovereign way to rule. Whoever rejects it does not necessarily fly to anarchy or despotism. Unanimity is impossible. The rule of a minority as a permanent arrangement is wholly inadmissible, so that rejecting the majority principle, anarchy, or some form of despotism is all that's left. Leaving on your own is anarchy. But the majority principle is not anarchy. When you reject the majority principle, anarchy is all that's left. So in not rejecting the majority principle, you are not creating anarchy. The chief magistrate derives all of his authority from the people, and they have referred none upon him to fix terms for the separation of states. The people themselves can do this if also they choose, but the executive has nothing to do with it. So I have to bring the union together unless the people tell me I should do something other than keeping the union together. We cannot reject the majority principle because that results in anarchy. And that's backed up here with one or the states can't just leave. That's crazy. You can't break a contract without a majority or all the parties rescinding it. This is here, rejecting the majority principle equals anarchy. Therefore, I, Lincoln, am going to keep these states together, but the people themselves can tell me to not do that. They can fix terms for the separation of states. The people can fix terms for the separation of states, but the executive has nothing to do with it. Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address. And that's not all. Here's an academic study from a university where they literally went over all of this. So here's the academic study. Come on. Oh, no, seriously? Stupid. Okay, let me find the academic study again. Abraham, here we go. Okay, here we go. Here's the academic study. Akil Reed Amar, David C. Baum lecture, Abraham Lincoln in the American Union, where he explains that Abraham Lincoln basically said you could secede as long as you got a majority of the people to agree. He's basically backing up what I just did, showing you the inaugural address of Abraham Lincoln allows for consent. Now, when we add that to Texas v. White, one second. State independent. Okay, here we go. Now, Salmon Chase was appointed by Abraham Lincoln directly. Salmon Chase was appointed by Abraham Lincoln directly. Salmon Chase was the Supreme Court justice who oversaw Texas versus White. In Texas versus White, they say you cannot secede except through consent of the states. So here's Salmon Chase, who was appointed directly by Lincoln, saying, yes, you can secede through consent of the states. And then, according to this guy, and I just showed you, Abraham Lincoln said in his inaugural address that you can secede with consent of the states. And so that's the point. Nobody's getting this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not leaving Congress. She's not telling people to leave Congress. She's not saying let's not talk or negotiate. She's saying let's have a discussion. The South absolutely did not do that. They just left, didn't want to talk, didn't want to deal with Lincoln or Congress, and then started attacking. She hasn't done that at all or suggested those steps at all. So this is a lie. And actually, no, she doesn't mean civil war, because what she's doing is describing the process that Lincoln and Salmon Chase said. Lincoln and Salmon Chase said, if you had a discussion and the people came together and voted for this, then it can happen. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I just showed you the tweet, is saying, let's have a discussion. She has not in any way said, I will never accept a peaceful vote. I'm only for guns. In no way that should there be a negotiated settlement. I would fight a negotiated settlement if the blue states came to me and said, we have all the votes, go ahead and leave. I would still say, screw you, and get my AK-47 and start shooting. She said nothing of the kind. So how do we know that she means no discussion, no dialogue? Abraham Lincoln said, if the people themselves, a majority, under the principles of contract law, come together, then he would have to allow those states to secede. Salmon Chase backed that up with Texas versus White. And so when you say what she's saying is illegal and treasonous and unconstitutional, how is it unconstitutional when Abraham Lincoln said, if people agree, you could secede? And how is it unconstitutional if Salmon Chase oversaw a Supreme Court case that said you could secede with consent? Especially when we look at the fact that the Constitution does not say anything about secession. Abraham Lincoln literally said that in his inaugural address. I just showed you. Constitution silent, doesn't have the mechanisms for its own termination. But the Constitution does say that for legal disputes, you go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said secession's legal. And it said it after the Civil War, making it legal precedent. So there is a constitutional path for secession. You therefore, until she precludes herself from that option and says, I mean, not negotiation, let's leave Congress and start fighting, you can't say that she means no discussion. Discussion is a constitutionally approved path for secession. So it's not illegal or treasonous. She does not mean civil war. You can't prove that. She never said anything like that. And she is absolutely not following the path of the Southerners. These are hard facts. You will see them nowhere else. And again, you don't have to like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You don't have to support her values. I don't. I don't support her values. I don't like her. I think she's a racist. But people are lying. They're lying about history and they're lying about the law. And that's wrong. As liberals, we're supposed to be above fake information. And the other thing is this. Jason Wright, my boss, is a Green Party member. I'm an ex-Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I call myself a liberal. I feel that way, but I'm an ex-Republican, never joined another party. We also have libertarians in the group, and we have Democrats. So the Cal Exit movement is for anybody from any political thing. You just have to believe in California values. You could be a Republican who hates Trump. You could be an ex-Republican. You could be a Green Party member. You could be a Democrat. You could be a libertarian. As long as you support California values, we accept you. And again, we at CalExit were actually the first ones to create the term national divorce. And we've had more conversations with more people around America about what that means. And nobody has ever said to us, nor have we ever entertained the idea that we mean anything other than a negotiated settlement. And there's literally nothing to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't mean that too, at least as of yet. If she gets out there and says something crazy, I mean guns, no negotiation, leave Congress, hell no, there can be no settlement or vote. Sure. But until you have that statement, you can't say that or prove it. And there's a lot of evidence suggesting she doesn't mean that, and that people who talk about national divorce also don't mean that.